Alright, today we're going to be talking about competition and dependence of organisms in an environment. We're also going to be talking about biotic and abiotic factors. Alright, so you should have gotten your notes in OneNote, copied it from the content library into your notebook, and write down two things you think you already know about biotic and abiotic factors. So write in the space provided. So here are your vocabulary words. Ecosystem, all of the organisms, biotic factors, along with all of the non-living components, the abiotic factors, with which they interact. So the biotic factors, or the organisms, interact with the non-living parts of the environment. Ecosystems want to be in a state of equilibrium or balance. So equilibrium means that there's enough food, water for all the living things in the ecosystem, and one population of living things is not so big that it hurts the other population of living things. Like there's not 1 billion foxes hunting 1,000 rabbits, okay? It has to be in equilibrium. It has to be more rabbits than foxes because the foxes eat the rabbit. Population, a group of the same species in the same area. So an example of a population is a population of ash trees in the atrium. So if you look in the atrium in the back of the science lab, you'll see these trees, and they're all the same type of tree. And those are ash trees, so that's a population. Another example of a population is a population of humans, like you and I, a population of humans in a school, so we're a population. Or a population of deer in a forest. Or a population of ants in an ant colony. So what is a biotic factor? What is an abiotic factor? Well, first of all, bio means life, like biology. Biology is the study of life, and this unit that we're studying is a biology unit. Biotic factors are living or once living things in an ecosystem. So example, grass, animals, and dead leaves. Okay, so leaves are a biotic factor, dead leaves are a biotic factor, dead animals are a biotic factor, and grass and dead grass are biotic factors. They are living or once living things that are part of an ecosystem, part of an environment. Abiotic or not biotic factors are all the not living things in an ecosystem. So the examples, you need to be writing down the examples in your notes. Okay? So write down these examples in your notes, and you're going to write down these examples. So examples are sunlight, the sun, which provides all the energy to the food web, provides all the energy to Earth. So sun, the sunlight, water, temperature, if it's hot, if it's cold, if it's a climate that's cold all year round, or is a climate that's warm all year round. Okay, soil, the dirt, the rocks, okay, the land, air, and space. Space is, do the trees have enough room to grow? Do the animals have enough places to build their habitat, to build their homes? Okay, so space is the habitat where the animals live. So make sure you write down the examples in your notes. Alright, dependence. So the word dependence is like if you depend on something. You passing the class depends on you getting good grades on your assignments, getting good grades on your tests, and you getting good grades on your test depend on you studying and listening in class. So organisms depend on certain biotic, living things, and abiotic, not living things, factors in their ecosystem to survive. Population numbers are influenced by the biotic and abiotic resources, things they have, that are available in the area. So how big the population can grow depends on how much stuff they have. Okay? You can't have, like I said, example earlier, you can't have a billion or a million or even hundreds of thousands of foxes if you don't have enough biotic factors for them to eat. If they don't have enough rabbits for them to eat, or you don't have enough smaller mammals for them to eat. Okay? Or if there's not enough water, abiotic factor, for them to drink. So the population size depends on what resources they have to use for survival, for living. Alright? Competition. Organisms within an ecosystem may compete for both biotic and abiotic factors. So if you have in an ecosystem, you have wolves and foxes, the wolves and foxes might compete for the same biotic factor. They both might hunt rabbits. Or they might compete for abiotic factors like space. Okay, a fox won't go into the hunting territory of a pack of wolves. Okay, so there's limited space for the fox to hunt because the wolves might beat them out for those abiotic factors like space or territory, habitat. Also abiotic factors like water. Animals on the savanna compete for water at watering holes. Larger animals will push their way in. Lions will scare away deer or gazelles, things like that. So animals, organisms, even trees compete for living things. So let's look at some of the things they compete for. Alright, so main point for today. Alright, so let's look at what are these. Is it biotic or abiotic? Alright, grass. Is it biotic or abiotic? Well, grass is living, it's an organism, so it is biotic. Okay? Phytoplankton. Plankton is a producer in the ecosystem in an aquatic or marine food web. Phytoplankton makes their own energy, so they're living organisms, so they're biotic. Okay? Water. Is water living? No. Water is not living. It doesn't grow. It doesn't have offsprings. Okay? A raccoon. A raccoon is an organism. A dead raccoon is still biotic. So a raccoon would be a biotic factor, and a dead raccoon is still a biotic factor. And sunlight, the sun, and the energy from the sun is not living. Stars are not living. The sun is not living. And the energy, any type of energy, is not living. So is abiotic, not living. So fill in your chart. Alright, so competition. So producers like plants, trees, phytoplankton, algae, grasses, banana trees, okay, all compete for things, as well as consumers. Consumers like mice, deer, cows, hawks, wolves, sharks, dolphins, fish, all compete for things. So producers compete for space, so do consumers. Producers compete for nutrients and found in soil, so they compete for those things, as well as sunlight. So some trees grow taller than other trees, and they keep trying to outgrow each other so they get more sunlight. Okay? So they do compete for sunlight as well as compete for water. Consumers like animals, or consumers are animals, they compete for space, for food, for water, okay, as well. Alright, so let's look at this food web. What type of food web is this? Well, it's a terrestrial food web. A terrestrial food web means one on the Earth's surface on land. Okay, so a food web, the food web is showing a terrestrial ecosystem. Alright, I know it says a woodland ecosystem, but I want to make sure that you write terrestrial, so we continue using this word. There are blank producers. How many producers are there? Well, there's grass. I just know that's a producer. Also, do you see any arrows going to it? No. No organisms are going to it, so that means it makes its own food using photosynthesis. And right here, the blueberry bush also makes its own food because there's no arrows going to it. If we had a sun in this picture, then the arrows would go from the sun to our producer. But we don't have a sun in this food web, so they should have no arrows going to them to make them a producer. And in a marine ecosystem, you can replace these with phytoplankton, algae, seaweeds, okay? So how many producers do we have? We have 2. Let's see if my pen will write. 2. Alright. Consumers, well, if we have 2 producers, everything else is a consumer. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 consumers. Okay. 8 consumers. Alright, organisms that are both predator and prey. Well, let's look at our organisms that are just prey. Are ones that eat producers only, exclusively, there are prey. So a grasshopper is a prey, not a predator. Rabbit is a prey, and the field mouse is also a prey. Okay, and not a predator. Okay, now the shrew gets eaten by the owl, so that makes him a prey as well. The sparrow gets eaten by the hawk, he's a prey. The skunk also gets eaten by the owl. The energy of the skunk goes into the stomach of the owl. Okay, so prey, 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 prey. Okay, the great horned owl and the hawk are not prey at all. They are predators only. Okay, so they're consumers and they're predators. They're not prey. So predator, predator, prey only, prey only, prey only. This is a predator because he hunts and kills the grasshopper. So he's a predator to the grasshopper and a prey for the owl. So he's a prey and a predator. So that's 1. The sparrow. The sparrow only eats berries, so he's only a prey. He is not a predator. And then the skunk only eats berries, so he's also not a predator. He's only a prey. So, oh wait, look this way. The sparrow eats the grasshopper. And then the skunk also eats the grasshopper. So the sparrow is a predator to the grasshopper. And the skunk is a predator to the grasshopper. So in this direction, from the blueberry, they were only prey. But because it's a food web, there's multiple relationships. The sparrow and the skunk are predators of the grasshopper. So 1, 2, 3 organisms are both predator and prey. 3. Alright, how many top predators do we have? Blank top predators. Blank top predators, a hawk and a great horned owl. What makes them top predators? They are not eaten by anybody else in the food web. So they're predators and they're not prey also. They're only predators. So we have 2. Alright, and blank organisms that only eat consumers. So only eat consumers means that they are carnivores. So let's point out our carnivores. The hawk is a carnivore. The great owl is a carnivore. Grasshopper, herbivore. Rabbit, herbivore. Mouse, field mouse, herbivore. That means they only eat plants. Now here are the shrew. Does he eat any plants? Nope. So he's a carnivore. So we have 1, 2, 3 carnivores, 3 organisms that only eat meat, only eat other consumers. So let's fill this in. 3. All right. But where are our omnivores? Our omnivores are skunk, because the skunk eats the grasshopper and the blueberries, and our sparrow, because the sparrow eats the grasshopper and the blueberries. So these are our omnivores. Omnivores, herbivores, carnivores. Okay? So I want you to fill in the rest of this. So biotic factors that exist in the ecosystem are, well, all of these are our biotic factors. Our organisms or our living things are our biotic factors. So blueberry, the shrew, the grasshopper, the great owl, the hawk, everything here will be our biotic factors. What are our abiotic factors? Well, our abiotic factors are not in the food web. Okay, so you're going to have to use a little bit of your imagination and also look at the list of abiotic factors in your notes to fill in the rest of them. Sun, the sunlight, temperature. So fill in the rest of these from information from your notes and just thinking what else these animals need, and plants need for survival that are not living. Okay. All right. I filled in 2 of them for you. You fill in the other 2. So the first one, the skunk is dependent on the grasshopper for energy. This is an example of a biotic factor because he's eating the grasshopper. I could have said the blueberry bush. The skunk is dependent on the blueberry bush. It would still be a biotic factor. Okay? Fill in this one. The great horned owl is dependent on the blank. So here's your great horned owl. Just pick one of the things that he's dependent on for energy, and this is an example of what type of factor. Abiotic or biotic factor. Pick one. And see where he gets his energy from. Alright? And competition is occurring between the field mouse, the rabbit, and the grasshopper for grass. So the field mouse, the rabbit, and the grasshopper both are eating the grass. That means they're competing against each other. Okay? So they all 3 eat the same thing, and they compete for this. They all want this. So now you tell me who's competing for the grasshopper. So here's the grasshopper. Tell me 1, 2, 3 organisms that compete for the grasshopper, and fill in the blanks. Okay. There's going to be a quiz over the information from the notes, okay, and also the examples that I gave in today's lesson.